All right. Well, we're running a little bit behind schedule tonight. We're going to go solo. We're going to make this a quick thing, pod, a little quick solo discussion. We're going to break down some different things. We'll have a little legal corner. We'll talk about whether or not uh, changing your team name on a regular basis allows you to allege quote unquote trademark infringement when another owner decides to make fun of you. We'll certainly get to that. We'll talk trends, who's up, who's down, and of course we'll answer any questions and comments that Paul has during the show. So if you're a listener, if you do listen, please like and subscribe. Got to get the numbers up. We want to generate as much ad revenue as possible. Might as well find a way to make a little coin off of this. So anyway, we'll jump right in. Pretty much, we might as well. Um, first question. I think this is a good one. Is what's my favorite trade of the year so far? Oh, I don't know. That's an interesting discussion. I think we need to probably sort through it. Let's do that. Let's throw it up here. Here's a whole bunch of trades. Let's see what we've got. We've had some good ones. We've had probably some not so good ones. This most recent one, of course, Keyshawn Booty, Kansas City Chiefs. Sure, why not? That's certainly a trade. That's not going to be up there. Um, I don't even know what the team name involved in this Travis Hunter deal is, but I don't think trading for Jaguars, players trading away. Um, I don't know. Brees Hall, that's not going to get up there either. Obviously, a lot of draft picks have been traded at times. Any of these recent trades in the last week or so, none of those could be the favorite trade of the year. I think, frankly, probably let's see, if we go all the way back to the beginning of all these trades. I know this is great audio if you're listening in. Um, there's so many Paul trades to sort through. That's really the problem when it comes down to it. But ooh, has there really been one player that's traded this year that you would say has overwhelmingly made a big difference? I don't know that. I mean, maybe. Ooh, you know what? We'll see. But I mean, Jonathan Taylor might be. I don't know about favorite trade. That's probably the biggest trade. The best trade that someone could have made this year is to go out and acquire Jonathan Taylor. I think my favorite trade, though, realistically, is if we look here. We had. This is probably my favorite. We've got. I don't even know what this team name is. We'll just call it Paul against. Don't even know whose team is what at this stage, given the fact that we've had so many team names changing as often as they have today. But basically, this is my favorite trade. We've got two teams competing football trade, trying to get better, and we ultimately trade players who, since this trade went down, basically haven't played. Chris Godwin's injured his leg, hasn't been seen in a month. Bucky Irving got hurt, hasn't been seen in a month. Brian Thomas can't seem to catch the ball. There's a missing persons report out for him, and yeah, DK Metcalf has been okay, slowed down since he went off in that London game, predictably, and Jake Ferguson's been quite good. This is my favorite trade. I think we've got. You would have looked at this on his face and thought, "Wow, Brian Thomas Jr., Chris Godwin for Bucky Irving, DK Metcalf, Jake Ferguson as filler." That's a good football trade, both sides, and really, it's kind of been a complete dumpster fire for the most part. So, we'll see. Now, the biggest question is, what was the intent last week by yours truly when it came to dropping Tyrone Tracy? Uh, I think my intent was to play him to keep him for another week. I should have just tanked the matchup, had no quarterback, no defense, and we never would have seen a $200 fab request for Tyrone Tracy. Do I think Tyrone Tracy is a league winner? First of all, he's on a team where he's not going to end up being a league winner, but that's a separate point altogether. I don't think so, personally. Um, we saw him already this season in the situation where he was the lead back. Right at the beginning of the year, he started. He was the guy. Cam Scatterbo taking the lion's share of carries. And let's see what happened there. 4.5 points week 1, 7 points week 2, 4.5 week 3. That's not inspiring much confidence. And look, Scottaboo went out last week. Game was out of hand. Still got 10 carries, 6.3 points. Not great. And let's look at the schedule. Right, he's got a very late bye. He's got the Niners this week, so okay, good chance to put up some points. And it's at Chicago. We'll see. Road game, maybe not. Then it's Packers, very good against running backs. Detroit, very good against running backs. New England, best team in fantasy against running backs, and the bye. So we've got 4 weeks in a row leading up to the end of the regular season with terrible matchups. And yeah, sure, he's got the Commanders, the Vikings, and the Raiders in the playoffs. But I don't know that I would call that a league winner. Certainly not a new league winner from a trade perspective or a roster perspective. I think somebody like a Kimani Vidal, now that owner who's got him has lost 3 in a row, so maybe picking up the best waiver wire running back doesn't actually help you win. Maybe that deserves some investigation. So, I'm not sure what the correct plural is, and we'll change subjects here because we've been asked to rank the team names of all of the A teams, the team names that start or involve the letter A in the league. I'm not sure if the plural is Asmongley, but it might be one of these geese situations. But anyway, if we're going to rank team names, we've got the Assmonglers, formerly known as Albuquerque. We have the Albuquerque Assmonglers, the famous original Albuquerque Assmonglers. I don't know what we have 2 of the same team name. That's problematic. We've got Commissioner of Albuquerque, Assmonglers, and then we've got 2 Albuquerque, 2 Assmonglers. So probably 2 Albuquerque, 2 Assmonglers is I think the number 1 that I would rank. Then we'll go famous original Albuquerque Assmonglers. Then the Assmonglers formerly known as Albuquerque, Commissioner of Albuquerque, Assmonglers, because of course the commissioner can't be last. And then for a tie for last, we'll put Albuquerque Assmonglers and Albuquerque Assmonglers. So it sort of takes us into legal corner, I guess, if you will. Look, if over 12 years you've only used the team name in 4 of those seasons, you can't claim that you own some kind of team name or trademark. That's what you get for changing team names all the time, for trying to be funny and catchy. There was a run of years with the name, Turkey. We're not going to talk about what type of butter Paul likes to put on his toast, but there are just that's how we see it, right? We're not going to rank all 6 of these team names, sure, but we're certainly not going to say that there's any infringement. If people want to make fun of one another with team names, that's kind of in the spirit of fantasy football and what you should do. So, personally, we're not going to side with that owner in that scenario. But so we'll transition out of legal corner. Any other legal disputes amongst the league, please raise them to the court. We'll provide swift judgment. You may not like it, but frankly, kind of how the legal system works, right, in real life and in this situation. So what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about trends. Who's up? Who's down? What should we be thinking about? Looking at, here we are. We're just past the halfway mark. We're 8 weeks in. We all sort of know who we think is good, who we think is bad. And to do this, look, I think we don't need to spend a lot of time talking about Mr. Jacobs' team or Mr. Tyson's team. Those are both 6-2. They're both very good. They both are some of the better teams in terms of point score margins in the league. I think it's an interesting situation to look at, particularly as we get closer to the trade deadline, 3 weeks away. Who might be a seller? Mr. Manuel, trending down. This team has lost 3 in a row. It's frankly, this is a pretty rough week when it looks at buys. You've got Saquon Barkley, Devonta Smith, Baker Mayfield all on bye. You can only play one defense, so that hampers carrying 2, particularly as you get through some of the bye weeks. He's also got 2 kickers, so interesting roster management. And this is a team that, with Marion Hampton on the IR is very much just sort of rolling out there and hoping every week that Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua just collectively go off. I think the Quentin Johnson offer, last week was pretty embarrassing, right? You should never have a guy who big play threat who plays gets a goose egg. It's been a rough month for Quentin Johnson. This team really doesn't have much of a first or second fiddle second fiddle to Puka at receiver, and certainly benefited from Kamani Vidal off waivers. But no, this team's definitely trending down. It doesn't have a lot of pieces that inspire a ton of confidence. Probably a team that it's not going to trade Puka, not going to trade probably Kyron Williams, but it may be hard pressed to be trading Hampton or Vidal. But certainly, you know, it's a team that I could see getting rated here because it's definitely on the trend down as we move forward. I think another team on the trend up, 1-2 in a row, starting to maybe edge out a little bit in front there in its own division is Famous Original, AA. This is a squad that certainly could use some help at running back. But overall, it's a good team. It's a solid team. Now, Devontae Williams having a career season, Michael Pittman having a career year, he now having a great resurgence here, basically getting close to 40. It's a good team. It certainly could use maybe an upgraded quarterback, upgraded defense. Jane Daniels' trade has not worked out so far for this owner. And will Joe Burrow come back this year? Probably not, be my guess, the way the Bengals season is going. So for LaMagna, he's on the up because he's won 2 in a row. He's trying to, Paul has lost. I've lost. He's able to get a little bit ahead in the division. He's got a solid team, especially with Puka when he's off by a really, really solid receiving core and some good running backs, for the most part. But definitely not a perfect team, right? Trending up, really needs to stay healthy because there's the lack of depth and how much can you depend on a Charbonnet or Woody Marks when you need to play with buys and everything else. So that's a team definitely on the up that I would be wanting to keep an eye on here. I think also, we'll give a little bit of shout out, right? We'll talk about the Matt Wagner ass monglers. Are they trending up? They're trending down. Now they just won. They're 3-5. Not probably going to be a close to a playoff team. He's actively shopping Devontae Adams. Personally, not sure what the value there is. What's it worth when he's the number 2 receiver in an offense that's a little bit hit or miss? Schedule, tough division, older receiver, but there's definitely potential there. He's not a bad guy to have, and he's got Tucker Kraft, who, if he doesn't want to keep him, is definitely an asset that he can move. But this is not a team in the sense of trending up, I think, for the playoffs. It's certainly got that chance to always win a game. Terry McLaurin having a bad year, keep getting hurt. It's not a team with a lot of talent, but it's got just enough assets to potentially make a move and trend up in the sense of he can help himself. I think looking forward into next year. Now, of course, we have to know what his intent is, and we have to infer what he wants or doesn't want when it comes to some of these moves. So I'm not sure I'm able to infer the value of Devontae Adams at this stage, but it's a team I think that is on in a non-traditional sense. At the same time, I think there's some other teams that are really starting to look up. Bodson's an interesting team. I think this is one where I struggle. How good is this team? What's the ceiling for this team? It's certainly got talent. Kareem Hunt is a solid pickup or stash there, with the injury of Pacheco. And the quarterback situation, he has to get it figured out. Is it Dart? Is it Nix? Nix is the number 5 quarterback this year. Just doesn't really look that great throughout the year. Fields is on bye. But look at what this team has. Devon Achane, Josh Jacobs, Corey Cross-Merritt as a flex option. There's Olave, Zay Flowers. Receiver is not where this team is strong, but it's got that potential where, if it makes 1 or 2 moves at pass catcher position, it's going to be really in it. And I think that for me, that would be a team that I look at as also potentially trending up. So we'll have to see how that all turns out. But those are just some of the teams that we're looking at. Trends, of course, everything can change. It's week 9 now. We've got some great matchups. That's all. We'll see, right? Upsets happen, right? Last week, Paul lost to Wagner in a matchup nobody, expected told that to be. And of course, now we know that that was for the championship of who is the true Albuquerque ass mongols. Perhaps we should put that in a message retort there to Mr. Bielenmeyer in his legal briefs. Um, it's just an interesting setup we had. We had teams last week. A couple teams only score in the 60s, and one team score 160. So we've definitely got some spread, some nice variability there. But it's an interesting season. This week we've got both of the 2 and 6 teams there matched up against each other. Both of the 5 and 3 teams. We've got 2 of the 5 and 3 teams are matched up together. 2 of the 3 and 5 teams they're matched up together. And then we've got some 4 and 4 lucky teams here, and some big matchups against 6 and 2 division leaders. So we've got an interesting set of matchups that have a lot of playoff potential implications there. I think that's just one that we got to keep an eye on. Back there in the second quarter down on Thursday Night Football down here in South Florida. Yeah, we'll just finish it up with that. We'll give some predictions or not here. I mean, it'd be interesting to see, which of these 2 and 6 teams wins, because the loser really is the true winner. They sort of have that little extra inside edge to land potentially the number 1 or even 2 pick in the draft. So that's certainly a solid place to be. And at the same time, you've got situations where, look, Mark Andrews already got 2 touchdowns in this game, and for the soon to be called just the interns, they really pull out a win, send Manny even closer down the drain, and really force him to consider selling. That'd be an interesting move, I think, for the league as we approach the trade deadline. And of course, on the other side, between Joe and LaMagna, it's a big matchup. A big matchup. 2 5 and 3 teams. LaMagna's got to get a win, continue to keep pace ahead of Paul and I, and of course, Joe is only a game back of Eric. So big stakes in that one. Those Giants fans will probably have one eye on the Niners and the Giants, and another eye on their respective teams as they play this weekend. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a good one. I'm sure everybody's excited to find out what happens with their team. Now, we're just going to wrap it up here. It's been a quick little episode. I'm sure that's been to everybody's enjoyment. And look, we'll see. I'm sure there'll be lots of more movement here in the remainder of the season here, especially before the deadline. I expect a lot more trades as we get just a little bit to see what happens. It's going to be fun. I'm going to keep battling. I'm 4-4. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep battling and see what happens. But I'm also open for any trade proposals that are, I think, benefit myself in the short and long term, which does not mean giving up a 3rd-round pick for a 35 or 38-year-old receiver, whatever. That one is. You know who you are if that's your proposal. I'm not sure I understand the rationale there, but that's okay. That's how part of this works. So appreciate anyone who happens to listen in. If you do, I also apologize. I'm sure your ears will be bleeding at the end of this, but let's do it here. Yeah, look, if we can get a repeat viewer or a rewatch, we'll certainly appreciate that very much. So that will sign off. Hope everybody enjoys their Thursday night. Be safe out there. Trick or treating. Don't, if you've got small children, be aware of some certain candies, hard candies, small hard candies can pose drinking hazard. Everybody be safe out there on All Hallows